12 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, after this team, we're only going to have one conference left. Can you believe it? But we're moving on to the final team of the Mid-American Conference, the Central Michigan Chippewas. And this very well may be the most talented team in the Mid-American Conference. They're returning a great running back, a solid quarterback. And while some of their bigger pieces offensively and defensively are gone, I still think this is a team that we can absolutely see push for a spot in the conference championship game. This can be the team out of the MAC that can have that all-special season. There's usually one every year. So can Central Michigan string together a special year and make a run at a conference title? Or will Central Michigan maybe not be as good as some people are thinking they will be, and maybe they struggle here in 2022? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason. And if you're a fan of anyone, but if you're a fan of a team that's not in Conference USA, I've already done your team, so hit the subscribe button and go through my channel. Look for your favorite team. Go ahead and watch that video if you so please after watching this one, of course. But hey, if you're a fan of a team in Conference USA, it's the only conference I haven't done yet. Hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. The fans of the Central Michigan Chippewas out there, you guys will know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, whatever have you, please leave it in the comment section down below. I would be happy to hear what you guys have to say. Talking about the Chippewas in 2022, they are my top #1 ranked team in the conference coming into the 2022 college football season. Now, last year, they were 9-4, 6-2 in conference. I believe had an 8-4 regular season and did end up winning that bowl game there as well. This Central Michigan team was very, very impressive last year, and you can make the case for this being the best offense in the conference last year. Had 451 yards per game, almost 452 yards per game, with 33 points per game. And defensively, while I think there are definitely things to work on, this was a pretty good defense last year. 394 yards per game with around 26.2 points per game. Now, when we take a look at talent that is leaving the Central Michigan team, well, a lot of their bigger pieces offensively do leave. Now, quarterback Jacob Sirmon was not the starter last year, but did play his fair share of minutes. Had 734 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. I believe he has transferred out of the program somewhere to the likes of Northern Colorado or somewhere along there. I can't remember the exact program. Northern Colorado may be it, but Jacob Sirmon transferring out of the program. You do have a running back leaving, was actually the second leading rusher last year, but he only had 212 yards. That was Darius Bracey. So he leaves this team. Did not have a touchdown last year, but you're still losing that production in the running back room. In the wide receiver room, well, there are a lot of playmakers that do leave the wide receiver room. Khalil Pimpleton was one of the better playmakers on this offense, was the leading receiver, had 960 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. Ja'Cory Sullivan, your third leading receiver, had 687 yards and 10 touchdowns a season ago. You lose him. Remy Simons is another name that you lose. Simmons had 163 yards last year. And a couple of NFL prospects in Bernard Raymond and Luke Godecki are gone off the offensive line. In the defensive side, well, Amir Sadiq is going to be gone off that defensive line. He transfers out, had 4 sacks a season ago. Troy Hairston is another name you'll see gone off the defensive line. Well, another kid named, and by the way, Troy Hairston, 8 sacks last year, which I believe led the team. Well, and another Troy leaves this team. Troy Brown at linebacker had 65 tackles, 6 passes defended. You'll see him leaving this team, as well as George Douglas, who was a fairly solid piece to this defense last year as well. In the defensive back position, well, you're going to lose Deshaun McNary. He is gone off of this team, had 4 passes defended on 15 tackles last year. Gage Kresge was the leading tackler last year at 80 tackles, an interception there as well. And Devonnie Reed is gone from this team as well. 6 passes defended, 2 interceptions with 72 tackles a season ago. They are losing a lot of talent, and those 2 offensive linemen leaving are going to be huge for this team. But you know what? They do return 2 key pieces on the offensive end. I'll even say 3 key pieces, but Daniel Richardson is coming back for this team. Had 2,633 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He played very, very well for this Central Michigan team last year, and I expect him to maybe be a sneaky contender to be a 3,000-yard passer in 2022. I really think Daniel Richardson can be that good, and now with Jacob Sirmon gone, should get a lot more snaps and a lot more reps. Lew Nichols is going to be the name to watch on this team. And if you're not familiar with that name, well, let me kind of tell you a little bit of what he can do. He had 341 carries last year, which was one of the is a crazy number of rushing attempts to have. Had 16 rushing touchdowns last year, but he led the nation in rushing yards last year, had 1,848 yards. We're talking about Chuba Hubbard type levels of production here. If Lew Nichols gets 2,000 yards this upcoming season, do not be surprised. This is a very, very good running back. One of the best backs in the nation. Oh, and did I mention he was only a freshman last year? Yeah, Lew Nichols is a crazy talent. I'm surprised Central Michigan was able to keep him around. Miles Bailey at running back is here, coming back as well, had 114 yards. Marion Luke's coming back as running back as well. But, I mean, come on, they're nowhere near Lew Nichols standards. Lew Nichols is going to be the feature back on this team. Dallas Dixon is had 701 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. It's the second leading receiver. He returns. Other than that, though, the wide receiver position, maybe a little bit of a question mark. But Alec Ward comes back on the team. Didn't catch a pass last year, but figures to play some big minutes. And they are getting a couple transfers in. Carlos Carrier comes over from Maryland. And Jalen McGaughey comes over, I believe, from Ball State. So you're getting a couple key transfers in the wide receiver position. And Joel Wilson, who was the 4th leading receiver last year, had 367 yards and 6 touchdowns. He returns for this team as well. On the defensive side, Jaquez Bristol, John Wesley Whiteside, a couple defensive linemen that you will see return for this team, as well as Thomas Nkum. In the linebacker position, you have Kyle Moretti, who was pretty good for this team last year, and Justin Whiteside in the linebacking position as well. In the defensive back position, I mean, Dante Kent was really good for this team last year, had 14 passes defended. You can make the case on that why that is their best defensive back. And then Trey Jones, another name you will see return for this defensive back, backfield there as well. To put some more names in perspective, Wesley Whiteside had 6.5 sacks last year. Nkum had 3.5 sacks. Justin Whiteside, the linebacker, had 3. I mean, this is a Central Michigan team that is loaded with talent. Did really well in the transfer portal. Yes, they don't have Khalil Pimpleton. Yes, they don't have Ja'Cory Sullivan. Yes, they don't have those 2 offensive linemen who went to the NFL. But they still have Lew Nichols. They have Carrier and McGaughey from the portal. They have Dixon. They have Daniel Richardson. Lots of good defensive talent. Oh, man, I'm really excited to watch the Chippewas this upcoming season. Taking a look at this schedule, though, this schedule is not without its landmines. And in non-conference play, well, you have 2 of them. You got to go on the road to play Oklahoma State. I think both Central Michigan and Oklahoma State fans know what happened. I believe the last time that those 2 schools played, crazy play, untimed down. Will it happen again in 2022? That is the big question. And then a road game against Penn State there as well. Now, Penn State was a couple possessions away from being a 10-2 football team last year. Sean Clifford was hurt as well. This should be a bounce-back year for the Nittany Lions. You also have home games against South Alabama and Bucknell. 2 games that I figure Central Michigan should be able to win in non-conference play. When you get into conference play, well, you have home games against road games against Toledo, Akron, Northern Illinois, and Eastern Michigan, and games at home. Here are your home games against Ball State, Bowling Green, Buffalo, and Western Michigan. So diving in a little bit to the schedule, I mean, Central Michigan, you do have a couple tough non-conference games. Of course, the game against Oklahoma State. It's an Oklahoma State team that I feel like some people are overrating this year. Yes, Spencer Sanders comes back, but he hasn't been fully impressive, and they lose a lot off that team from last year. The running back, Jalen Warren, is gone. I believe Tay Martin leaving that team there as well. So, and a lot of defensive talent, including their defensive coordinator and Jim Knowles. It's an Oklahoma State team that can still compete for a spot in the Big 12 championship, but, and again, Central Michigan and Oklahoma State, we remember what happened the last time they played. That's going to be a very intriguing matchup, and it's played on a Thursday night. You have that road game against Penn State there as well, and look, I frankly don't think Central Michigan is going to win either of those games. I think both Oklahoma State and Penn State should win handedly. But Central Michigan has enough talent to make those games interesting and to make those teams fight for their wins. South Alabama, that's a team pushing for a spot in the bowl game this year. I think Central Michigan should be able to win that. And Bucknell, not a very good FCS team, should be able to win that one. Getting into conference play, there are a lot of interesting games here. You got to go on the road to play Toledo. You got to go on the road to play NIU. Those by far are your 2 toughest games in non-conference play. Otherwise, when you look at conference slate, maybe with the exception of that road game against Eastern Michigan, every other game on the schedule is more than winnable. I mean, Ball State, Akron, those are going to be 2 not very good teams this year. Bowling Green, hey, they're the top team returning production, but nowhere near as talented as Central Michigan. Western Michigan has a lot of talent they need to replace this year, but they could still be on the fringe of being in a bowl game. Buffalo, that was just a bad team last year that it might get worse. They're losing a lot off last year. Look, the two toughest games by far, besides, of course, the two non-conference games, those are going to be hard. But in conference play, at Toledo and at Northern Illinois, Central Michigan is going to have to win one, if not both of those games, to have a shot to play for a conference title. I think they are more than capable of beating Toledo. That's a team that loses a lot off the skill corps this year, but should still be one of the favorites, and is going to have a really good defense. This offense will be tested against TCU's defense, and then on the road against Northern Illinois, of course, a team that won the conference last year. May that be a conference championship, may that be the game that decides who plays for a conference championship game. I think it very well may decide. Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a percentage-based Alec tell me predict a team's record. If the game is in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game is in orange, I still don't see you winning, but it is college football, and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but you got to watch out for teams on the other side of the ball. And games in green, I just have you win and should be able to beat Bucknell. And again, like I said, the majority of the games in conference play should be wins for them, including the South Alabama game and non-con. They should be able to win Ball State, Akron, Bowling Green, Buffalo, Western Michigan, and Eastern Michigan. A lot of those teams I just listed off have to replace some pretty key parts. Otherwise, Bowling Green can be a solid team. Of course, they are the top team returning production. Eastern Michigan's going to be a solid team. Western Michigan's going to be a solid team. I think even South Alabama's going to be a solid team. There are those landmines, and on the road against Eastern Michigan can be one of them. Maybe that game against Bowling Green, but they get it at home. No, besides Oklahoma State and Penn State, two games that I haven't read, I don't really think they're going to be able to win those games. I think Oklahoma State still has too much talent, and while Central Michigan can make it close and maybe repeat some history, I have the Pokes pulling that one out. Same thing with Penn State. This is going to be a bounce-back year for the Nittany Lions right before they have to get into Big Ten play. Now, with Central Michigan this upcoming season, the two games that you really need to watch for are Toledo and Northern Illinois. Those are the two games right there that are very well going to decide whether or not Central Michigan ends up making the conference championship game. And they are the two, but probably end up besides Central Michigan. Hey, they're number one for a reason. Those are the two teams right there with Toledo and Northern Illinois that are going to push for a spot in this division with Central Michigan. So you got to win at least one of those games, in my opinion, to have a shot at the conference title. But I think Central Michigan is more than capable of doing so. I think they have a lot of talent on this team. Lew Nichols is one of my favorite players in the entire... Lew Nichols is one of my favorite players in the entire nation. I would not be surprised if he gets 2,000 yards this year. And I think when you take a look at this schedule, I really do believe that 10 wins is in the cards for Central Michigan this year. In fact, if I were a betting man, I would feel fairly confident in putting some money on that. But that is not my prediction. My prediction for this team is 9-3. They will lose Oklahoma State and Penn State. I don't think they're going to be able to pull those ones out. And I do think they will be able to, and I do think they will lose at least one game in conference play. But this team has the talent to make a 10-2 run. I don't know if this is going to be a team that necessarily can push for a spot in New Year's Six bowl game or anything. They may have to pull off wins against Oklahoma State and or Penn State in order to do that. And a lot of other things I think would have to go right for that to happen. So I don't necessarily think that's in the cards for this team. But a 10-2 record with all they have coming back, with all they have coming in, this is a Central Michigan team that I love coming the next season. I could be overrating the Central Michigan team, yes, but I think a lot of Chippewa fans would be stoked to see this team go 9-3 and make that conference championship game. I think this is the most talented team in this conference, and this team could very well be one of the surprises of the college football season. But there you have it, my predictions for the Central Michigan Chippewas. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Anything like that helps support the channel. It means a lot. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. One conference left. I'll see all you guys later. Goodbye.